Part 4 of our interview with cognitive anthropologist and founder of BrainCells.com, Dr. Bob Deutsch. Now back to our host, Kevin Kelly, on the BuzzBubble.
What about an agency's place in product change or product development? You know, John Windsor talked about in his book with Alex Bogusky about not making new truths about a parody product just like another product, soap and soap, but changing the product to fulfill some greater need or truly create a new feature, benefit, position for the product. You know, do you think agencies have a place in saying to the brand, you know, your product really should do this? And I know it happens, in my opinion, doesn't happen often enough. The opportunity's not there often enough.
And it's a hard task, first of all.
It's a hard task, yeah.
To me, it gets back to something I said before. Meaning is a design.
Yeah, I heard you say that. And I didn't grasp it 100%, so fill me in.
So, I mean, from the get-go, if you're creating an idea, a concept, a notion, a thought, an idea that people are going to buy into and be uplifted by, it's already in the realm of design.
Okay.
You know, design is just a composition.
Yeah.
It's a rearrangement.
My outlook on design has changed in the past couple of years about what it really means and how overarching it is in so many areas of what we do. Not people think of design, they think you know, pencil on paper.
Right. It's much more
systems,
than that.
Designing processes, designing cultures. That's something that we preach also.
You know, and as an industry too, I think we sometimes overcomplicate and over-differentiate things. Also, you hear this language. What's the brand promise? And every brand, almost every week, has a different promise. That's absurd.
Yeah.
That's totally absurd. There's only one brand promise, if you really, from my point of view, understanding the mind, then there's only one brand promise, and that is what I said before. Through me, the product, a person feels they can use that as a venue to become more of themselves. Okay, that's the brand promise. I don't care what your product is. You know, my image of that process is the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz. Those characters, they traveled that yellow brick road to discover their own nature.
True.
Right? That's what brand is, or should be, and can be. It's not like, oh, I like it, I want to buy it.
Right.
It's like, no, this is going to help me actually realize my own true nature. And it's going to help me grow my own true nature. It's not just in the name of the status quo.
And
it's a discovery and an exploration.
And people wear it like a badge. You know, they also, like you said, it's part of them. Well, I want people to know I'm an Apple user. I want people to know I ride Harleys. If I ride Harleys, I want people to know the car that I drive.
The product is not the brand. The brand resides in the experience, in the body, in the mind of people.
Amen. Let's move into, I heard you have a book you're working on. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. If you really are in a quest to understand people as people, all people, one thing I think one comes up against, or one comes up to, is serendipity. We really don't appreciate enough of what that is. I would say,
I recognize it when I see it, but I don't always look for
I mean,
it.
I would say, even for my own story, if someone says to me, well, how did a cognitive scientist, cultural anthropologist get into the world of advertising? My answer is because of Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden.
That takes a little explanation, but I'm sure you will.
So let me give you 2 minutes on that, because it really gets at this notion that everyone, I think, participates in, which is serendipity. Okay? So 1991, Desert Storm. Saddam invades.
Strong memory of that.
I gave a small talk at a very, not very important event. Okay. And I was criticizing the Pentagon for how they were managing the media. A woman comes up to me from that audience and says, I'm a talent producer for Sunday Morning with David Brinkley. How would you like to say what you just said this Sunday morning on David Brinkley? I said, sure.
Of course. Sounds good.
From that, I got a call from Chicago Tribune newspaper. Could you write an op-ed about that? How would you like to write 12 Sunday op-eds during the '92 presidential campaign on popular culture, image, politics? Okay. From that, I got a call from the Japanese ambassador to the United States. We've read your articles. We'd like to talk to you about helping us understand the image of Japan in certain countries in the world. Right? So to make a long story short, I ended up doing that. And from that, I got a lot of press. I was on Nightline and got a lot of paper coverage and stuff. And the night before President Clinton made his first trip to Japan, Nightline did a whole program on my research about what I called American mythologies of Japan. And I'm saying this because from that work that started with this little speech that was not very important, I get a call, how would you like to make a speech to the executives of the 4 A's on what advertising needs to know about the nature of the mind? And I did. The speech was entitled, Before Advertising Can Move Forward, It Must Understand That Life is Lived Backwards. And what I meant by that was people create narratives to make meaning. And they use that as a sieve to structure the next moment, so to speak.
Right, right.
So that's my example of serendipity, right?
From that 4 A's on, you had interest in...
Yeah, and then it just happened.
Right.
And 20 years later...
It still
A
happened.
miracle. It's just it's a miracle. A bizarre miracle, but it's a miracle.
It's a fun business. It really is. I enjoy it. I enjoy it incredibly.
It's great.
And get to work
It's
with
great.
folks like you. And
There's fun people in it. You could make it into, I think, a challenging, important endeavor.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You could also not.
Right. There's definitely at least 2 kinds in the
But-
ad biz.
You ask about the book, so
Yes.
as a consultant, I meet up with a lot of different companies, a lot of different agencies, and sometimes, happily, in a repetitive way.
Right.
And being on the outside and having a different point of view of a cognitive anthropologist, it's not rare that a person or people will come up to me and say, you know, Bob, I'd like to be doing what you do. Which I laugh, you know. I say, if you lived my life, you would just be in terror. But what they're saying, and I find this in a lot of industries, people are somehow sort of disenfranchised and disembodied from the work they do. They enact a series of methods, procedures, tools that some are valid, some are invalid. Mm-hmm. But in either case, a lot of times people can find a way to insinuate their own selves into what they do. And there's a lot of despondency out there.
Yeah.
And I would couple that with, in the current context, about 6 months ago, Thomas Friedman, as usual, as far as I'm concerned, wrote a brilliant article, op-ed. It was something like, everyone needs to be their own startup, okay? Because innovation, even if you're a worker in a company, you know, nowadays you really have to be innovative.
Sure, yeah.
So
Daily.
that met up with my perception of people are, a lot of times feel disenfranchised. And now people have to be more innovative. And my thought was, to combat the disenfranchisement and to be more innovative, it's not a matter of what you know. It's a matter of being able to pass what you know through the sieve of who you are.
Challenge.
That's imagination.
Yeah.
Okay? So how do you get more in touch with who you are?
Right, right.
And we hear a lot about, you go to bookstores, you know, and you see a lot of stuff about, well, go to India, find your guru, or get in touch with the rhythms of the cosmos. Well, I'm really not into that because I'm into personal responsibility.
It's also not too practical for 98% of the
Right,
world.
Right. So I'm writing a book now called YOU Tools. Okay? And it makes the argument that the mind has already equipped you. You have it. Mm-hmm. All the tools necessary to find your own true nature and to build on that, explore that, and engage in that both in your personal life and in your professional life. And those tools, to name a few, are narrative making, metaphor making, curiosity, you know, and it's like, there's a quote that I'm going to use in the first overleaf of the book. Bob Dylan. I was born very far away from where I was supposed to be born. I'm always on my way home, period. Beautiful thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And what I'm trying to write about now is how we don't have to be Picasso, we don't have to be Bob Dylan, we all have the wherewithal within us. We just have to be made aware of it, to be constantly on that journey of finding our way home to our own true nature.
Well, look out for You Tools. Sounds like a great book.
Look out.
Look out for that. We will tell you when it's released. Well, this has been great. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up? But I've enjoyed it, and I think we've really gotten into your brain a little bit and helped others get into others' brains. Did I say that right? Well, thank you so much, Bob. It's been terrific.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for tuning in. Dr. Bob Deutsch. You can go to brain-cells.com, right?
Exactly.
And find out some more. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. BuzzBubble out.
That's it for our interview with Dr. Bob Deutsch. Tune in next week for our coverage of the Season 3 wrap party at the Gibson Showroom in New York City. Next week on the BuzzBubble.